I knew something was off the second I saw that envelope. Cream cardstock, gold foil, hand-delivered to my office like it was a damn wedding invite. And not from HR. This came straight from the hospital's admin office. Signed by Leonard himself. Formal dinner, Friday night, black tie. With the founder and his daughter. Not a word about why. I'd been at that hospital 22 years. Helped turn it from a 2-room walk-in off Route 8 into the biggest independent network in the region. Built programs, recruited staff, designed systems when we couldn't afford real ones. There were days I didn't see my kids. Nights I slept on a cot in radiology. I gave my life to that place. And lately, they acted like I was just part of the furniture. New hires showed up with flash and buzzwords. Data forward. Scalable growth. Agile framework. None of them could read a triage board or tell you what it costs when night staff's cut to the bone. Meetings I used to lead, I now got left out of. Leonard, the man who once called me his right hand, barely made eye contact anymore. And now I was getting a dinner invitation, dressed up like a favor. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I showed up anyway. Dignity intact. Navy pantsuit, nothing flashy but clean lines. Hair back. Minimal jewelry. I walked into this place with nothing but a clipboard and my nursing license. I wasn't about to walk out like a kicked-out aunt. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit places downtown where they serve scallops on white plates the size of hubcaps. Leonard stood when I arrived, still in his navy blazer, though his hair had thinned to wisps over the past year. His wife, elegant and silent as ever, smiled politely. Then there was Brooke. She stood too fast. Shiny blowout, perfectly pressed blazer, wide smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mia, she said, drawing out my name like I was her old school teacher. Glad you made it. I shook her hand. Her grip was too firm, rehearsed. She'd just finished some fancy healthcare leadership fellowship out east. Barely 30, and already acting like the hospital was hers. The waiter brought menus. I hadn't even sat down yet when she said, "We're so excited about the direction we're taking. Healthcare's changing fast, and we've got to move with it." Leonard chuckled nervously. Brooke's been thinking a lot about generational strategy. It's exciting, I nodded. Exciting, I said. Sure, but I wasn't smiling. I barely had time to open my napkin before the wine started flowing. Leonard poured it himself, hands shaking just enough for me to notice. Halibut, white asparagus, something citrusy drizzled across the plate. Not one bite touched until he cleared his throat and looked at me like a man who didn't want to be the one saying what he was about to say. "So," he said, leaning back, trying to sound casual. "We've been doing some long-range planning." Brooke jumped in like she'd been rehearsing. Succession, operational continuity, risk mitigation. I raised an eyebrow. "You practicing for a board pitch?" She laughed like it was a compliment. "It's important to align on leadership vision," Leonard cut in again. "Brooke's going to shadow you for 6 weeks. Just enough time to soak up your wisdom, your history with the place. After that, she'll step into the operations role." The table went quiet except for the clink of my fork hitting porcelain. "A graceful transition," Leonard added quickly. "Of course, we'd structure it right. You'd have options, generous ones." I looked down at my halibut, perfectly seared, untouched. Brooke grinned at me across the table like she'd just won a damn raffle. "Time to let the new blood in, Granny," Leonard's wife gasped. Leonard went rigid. Even the waiter froze mid-step like he'd heard it from the kitchen. I looked her dead in the face and smiled. Of course. Then I took a sip of wine, cool and sharp. Let them all exhale. Let them think I was fine with it. They didn't know I still held 5% of the parent company. They didn't know that back in 2004, when Leonard came into my office pale and panicked because we couldn't make payroll, I wrote a personal check to cover the nurses. A few days later, he handed me a single sheet of paper, equity in the holding company. "It's nothing now," he'd said. "But one day," I tucked it in a file folder at home, never touched it, never mentioned it. But I tracked every merger, every quarterly report. I knew exactly what that 5% was worth now, and it wasn't nothing. Leonard tried to shift the mood. "We're thinking this will be seamless. She learns from you. We give you a legacy send-off," Brooke interrupted. And you get to enjoy the next chapter. Travel, grandkids, less stress. I gave her another smile. Sounds like you've got it all mapped out. Leonard reached into his jacket and slid a folder across the table. Just preliminary numbers, a consulting package, some severance, full benefits. You've earned every bit. I didn't even open it. I didn't need to. They thought they were cutting me out politely, letting me save face. I'd seen this game before. Give the old dog a biscuit. Let the pup take the leash. Brooke speared a piece of fish and chewed slowly like she was already in charge. We'll schedule some sit-downs next week. I'd love to hear all your tribal knowledge. I nodded. Sure. We'll find time. I reached into my bag, pulled out a pen, and scribbled something on a cocktail napkin. Can't stay too late. Early shift tomorrow. Then I folded the napkin and handed it to Leonard. Here's the name of my estate planner, just in case you want to revisit the ownership docs before anything gets finalized. He opened it, stared at the name. Recognition hit him like a slap. I stood up. Thanks for dinner, and I walked out, heels clicking sharp across the marble, wine barely touched. Monday morning, I walked into that hospital like I always had. Coffee in one hand, badge clipped straight, head high. Nothing in my pace changed. Nothing in my face gave it away. But people felt it. You can't fake calm when something's rumbling under the surface. Luis caught me outside the admin suite. He'd been here nearly as long as I had. Still wore the same old Casio watch. Still brought tamales to the break room every Friday. He raised an eyebrow. You good? I smiled. I'm fine. You? He didn't answer, just nodded and kept walking. I went straight to my office, shut the door, and started digging. Pulled the shareholder agreement from the bottom drawer. The old one, the original. Signed in blue ink, notarized in June 2004. Still had Leonard's shaky cursive and the line that mattered most. Retains full voting rights unless equity is sold or transferred. It hadn't been. Next came the board voting records. I kept physical copies, not because I didn't trust the system, but because sometimes digital files go missing when power starts shifting. Then I pulled staff evaluations, all the ones I'd personally written over the last 5 years. I highlighted Brooke's name where it didn't appear. 2 hours later, I scheduled a meeting. Just Leonard, no Brooke, no witnesses. He came in stiff, holding his glasses like a prop. Probably expected me to yell or cry. I didn't. I pushed the shareholder file across the table. I still have voting rights. He didn't look surprised, just tired. That was a long time ago, Mia. Things evolve. Contracts don't evolve. They stay binding. He chuckled weakly. Nobody's trying to cut you out. I leaned forward. You're trying to make me ornamental. That's the same thing. He rubbed his eyes. It's a transition. We're trying to be graceful. Keep stability. Then you need me on that board. Active. Not boxed up with a plaque and a retirement cupcake. He said nothing. I'll help with the transition, but I'm not going anywhere until I say so. Clear? Leonard looked at the folder again. You always did have your ducks in a row. I stood. Still do. He left without another word. That night, I went home and pulled the bin from my attic marked old system files. Dusty binders, CDs, burned DVDs. A whole graveyard of the hospital's early days. Inside a red folder, I found it. A signed memo from 2006, on hospital letterhead. Leonard's signature at the bottom. Acknowledging my software, the early diagnostic modules and triage layouts we'd used when we couldn't afford commercial licenses. Stuff I'd built in my apartment with a secondhand Dell and too much caffeine. Buried under that, an email printout from the same year. Let's call it a gray area, Leonard had typed. But this helps us all. I sat at my kitchen table, flipping through old lines of code I'd written between 12-hour shifts and budget meetings. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't care. This wasn't about nostalgia. It was leverage. I scanned every page, one by one, and backed them up to a fresh drive. I texted Melissa as soon as I finished scanning the last file. Got something I want you to see. Bakery or your office? She answered in 5 seconds. Meet you at Green and Grain. 10? 10 sharp, I was already there, sipping burnt drip coffee in a metal chair that wobbled every time I moved. Melissa strolled in with her big leather bag and that fast walk energy she always had in court. Same no-nonsense haircut, same matte lipstick. She dropped her bag, slid into the chair across from me, and raised an eyebrow. You always drag me into fun stuff. I handed over a flash drive and a thick file folder. Found my old code, I said, and a signed memo from Leonard. Plus board docs, voting rights, everything. She popped open her laptop and plugged in the drive, flipping through files like she was browsing Netflix. Jesus, Mia, she said, half laughing. You didn't tell me you built half their backbone. Didn't seem relevant until now. Melissa slowed at a folder marked Triage Logic V1.3. Recognize this, she said. You used part of it when we did that VA project, remember? Yeah, but this version, hospital only. Built it before we could afford anything licensed. She opened the scanned memo, eyes narrowing. Dated, signed, good language, no dispute clause. Then she smiled. This is yours, Mia. You've got real leverage. We spent the next hour filling out paperwork for provisional IP rights. Diagnostic logic, triage sorting, even the interface I'd hand-coded in 2006. She knew exactly how to frame it. Legacy system built pre-commercial licensing. IP retained by original creator unless formally transferred. No such transfer existed. I left the bakery with a folder in one hand and a receipt for a blueberry scone in the other. Back at the hospital, I didn't say a word. I showed up like I always did. Clipboard, coffee, same steady walk down the East Wing corridor. But I didn't join the morning huddle. I went straight to IT, logged into the admin shell, and started flagging system logs. Quiet, deliberate. Backed up every file tied to my modules, load predictors, intake triggers, priority sorters. I tagged versions, noted timestamps, made sure my fingerprints were clean but visible. A few nurses glanced over, whispering. The maintenance guy passed me and muttered, "Didn't think you were still around," I smiled. Neither did some people. By Wednesday, rumors were circling. Why hadn't Brooke stepped in fully? Why was I still working full days? Why did I have the server room keycard again? I didn't answer any of it. I made no announcements, no office emails, no meetings. Just kept showing up, clockwork steady, backing up what I built, and marking what they thought was forgotten. In the break room, I heard someone say, "I thought she was being phased out." Then why's she still signing off on intake reports? Luis passed me in the hallway, gave a little nod, didn't ask questions. Just nodded like he knew something was in motion and trusted I had my hands on the wheel. Thursday afternoon, I uploaded a new log sheet into the archive. Just a timestamp, a file trail, and a single note. Version origin documented, IP protected. Then I logged out, shut the terminal, and walked to radiology like it was any other day. Friday morning, I walked into the conference room at 7:45 like I always did. Brooke was already there, heels kicked off. Laptop open, notes scattered. She looked up and gave me a tight smile like she'd beaten me to my own desk. I didn't sit. I didn't smile back. She dove in before anyone else arrived. "We've been analyzing the current scheduling matrix. It's inefficient." I shrugged. "You mean the one that's kept our overtime rates below 6% for 3 straight quarters?" She kept typing. "It's too reliant on manual approvals. Too much human error risk." I leaned against the wall. Automation nearly buried us during the 2016 flu surge. Remember that? When the auto-scheduler left 2 nurses covering triage for 40 patients. She didn't look up. That was then. We have smarter tools now. I said nothing. Let her bury herself in data she didn't understand. By Monday, she was everywhere, sitting in on surgical briefings, popping into radiology scans, asking department heads how often I actually reviewed patient flow reports. Nobody said anything to my face, but I saw it in their eyes. Some were curious, some uncomfortable. Wednesday, she called a department strategy meeting. She didn't invite me. Luis caught me in the hallway just after lunch, slipped me a printout of the agenda like he was passing state secrets. "Just thought you'd want to see," he said. I skimmed it. Restructure diagnostic services, outsource non-emergency testing, phase out night staff coverage in low-traffic wings. I laughed out loud. In the middle of the hallway. Full bark of a laugh. These were the services that held our hospital together. Diagnostics was our crown jewel. We had faster turnaround than any facility in the region. Night staff? They were the glue that kept ER chaos from spilling over. cut them, and we'd have wait times so bad people would start driving to the next county. But I said nothing. Didn't crash the meeting. Didn't call Leonard. Let her try. Let her pitch it, map it out, pretend she was rewriting the playbook. At 3 o'clock, I watched the department heads file out of conference room B like they'd just sat through a marketing seminar for a product they didn't want. No eye contact, just tight nods and quick exits. Brooke followed, smiling like a CEO. "We've got momentum," she said to nobody in particular. I stayed seated in the hallway, drinking cold coffee from a paper cup. I didn't need to move, didn't need to defend myself. I already knew how this would go. She'd cut what she didn't understand, streamline what was already efficient, and break the very system she thought was outdated. I let her have her spotlight. She'd already stepped in. Now I just had to wait for her to fall. 2 days after Brooke's big strategy meeting, Leonard showed up at my office. No warning, no calendar invite. Just knocked twice and stepped inside like he was still welcome. He stood there, arms folded, trying to look relaxed. "Brooke's getting great visibility." I looked up from my screen. Visibility isn't competence. He blinked, like that caught him off guard. "You're grooming her for more than ops," I said. "She's not shadowing me, she's replacing me. You think if she's standing in the right rooms, people will stop asking questions." Leonard sighed and leaned on the back of the chair across from me. "You've built a legacy, Mia, but we have to think about long-term strategy, succession planning, partner interest." I leaned back. "You mean MedSpan? The acquisition?" He didn't say a word. Didn't have to. I pressed on. "You think a clean, young, digital-savvy face looks better on a slide deck. But you forgot something." He straightened up. "Our infrastructure's duct-taped together in more places than you're willing to admit. One bad rollout, one system glitch, one bad call, and the whole damn thing folds." Leonard's face tightened, but he didn't push back. Just nodded, slow, then turned and walked out. Later that week, Brooke held a staff-wide strategy session. Full room, standing space only. She stood at the front, glossy slides behind her, voice polished like she'd been media trained. "Today," she said, "I want to show you our new triage model. It's data optimized, built for real-time decisioning, with scalable handoff layers and reduced intake friction." I crossed my arms. Slide 1 popped up, then 2. By slide 3, my jaw clenched. It was mine, line for line, layout for layout. The exact same triage structure I built in 2006. I recognized the sorting thresholds, the escalation triggers, the flowchart colors. Only thing missing was my name. She kept talking like she'd invented it. I waited, let her finish. When the last slide flicked off and everyone started clapping, I raised my hand. She hesitated. "Yes, Mia?" I stood, loud and clear. "Next time you present one of my systems," I said, "just cite your source." The room went dead silent. A few heads turned toward her. Brooke didn't say anything. Her face dropped just enough to let the panic through. She fumbled with her laptop, like closing it would erase what just happened. I walked out before she could respond. That afternoon, I called Melissa. We met at her office this time. No coffee shop, no bakery. Just hardback chairs, clean walls, and legal pads. She scanned my new screenshots, cross-checked my original module with Brooke's slides, and nodded once. "That's misuse," she said. "Let's make it official." We drafted a formal notice and sent it to the hospital's legal counsel, internal memo style. No big flags, but firm language. Unauthorized use of protected IP, pending legal review. No reply that day. Didn't need one. Word traveled fast. Vanessa caught me outside Central Supply the next morning. She looked pissed, but more confused than angry. "What are you doing, Mia?" I paused, waited for the hallway to clear, then looked her square in the face. "Setting the table." She stared at me for a second. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." She folded her arms. "Staff's on edge. People are asking questions." They should. I didn't offer more. Didn't need to. The damage was already done. Brooke had gone public with stolen work. Legal had been notified. Leonard was rattled. And staff? They weren't just watching anymore. They were wondering who was actually still in charge. Friday morning, we got the calendar blast. All hands staff meeting. Mandatory. 10 a.m. Conference room A. That room only got used for one thing: big shifts, layoffs, mergers, reorgs. I got there early, took a seat in the front row. No notebook, no laptop. Just me, arms folded, eyes up. Brooke walked in like she was stepping onto a TED stage. Bright blazer, stiff smile, fresh highlights. She clicked the mic once, adjusted it, and stood tall behind the podium. "Good morning, everyone," she said. "Thanks for coming. Today I want to talk about where we're going and how we'll get there." Behind her, the slide deck lit up. Leaner, faster, modern. Buzzwords stacked on top of one another. The kind of crap you find in tech startup blogs. We've reviewed our core functions and identified high overhead areas. Effective next quarter, we'll begin streamlining back-end services. Certain diagnostics will be outsourced to regional partners. Overnight staffing will be centralized. These changes free up resources to invest in what matters most: patient outcomes. Click, new slide, legacy leadership transition plan. Nobody looked at me. They didn't have to. Every word on that screen screamed my name. Brooke paused like she wanted applause. Got silence instead. She powered through. "We're grateful for the contributions that brought us here, but to evolve, we have to make space for new leadership, new thinking, new tools. We'll support our outgoing team members through this transition with generous options." I didn't flinch, didn't blink, just sat there, arms still folded, watching her talk like she'd already cleaned house. Meeting wrapped in under 15 minutes. People scattered quick. Nobody wanted to be the one standing next to me. Brooke caught me by the exit. "Mia," she said, voice soft but tense. "You'll be graceful, right?" I tilted my head. "Like you were with the triage model?" Her jaw tightened. "This is bigger than you. The board agrees." "Save it." I walked past her and headed straight for Leonard's office. No knocking. He looked up from his desk like he'd been waiting for me. "Got the packet?" I asked. He pulled it from his drawer, slid it over. "It's fair. Benefits, a consulting title, whatever you want to call it." I didn't touch it. "You forced me out without a vote," I said. "You breached the shareholder clause." Leonard rubbed his forehead. "You want to fight this publicly?" I smiled. "You think I haven't already started?" He didn't answer. I left the envelope untouched and walked out without another word. That night, I met Luis and Vanessa at an old diner off Route 14. Same one we used to hit during overnight shifts, back when we pulled doubles and covered for missing techs. Vanessa stirred her coffee with a plastic spoon. "She's got people scared. Nobody knows what's getting cut next." Luis shook his head. "I've got interns asking if they should start applying elsewhere." I pulled 2 manila envelopes from my bag and slid them across the table. "What's this?" Vanessa asked. "Everything you need to protect yourselves," I said. "Memos, timelines, documented failures, IP filings. You don't have to do anything with it. Just keep it safe." Luis flipped his open and stared at the first page. "Damn, I don't want you two blindsided," I said. "She's counting on silence." "We're not doing silence." Vanessa looked at me like she was seeing something new. Or maybe something old she'd forgotten. "You're not walking, are you?" I shook my head. "Not yet." By Monday morning, the cracks started showing. The new outsourced call center Brooke bragged about in her slides couldn't keep up with follow-ups. Lab results delayed. Discharge instructions missed. One patient got told to fast for a procedure they'd already finished. Nurses were pissed, and patients were calling back direct, right to the local floor lines, where my old manual trees still lived. Tuesday, the rebrand launched. New logo, new tagline, streamlining tomorrow's health. Some intern printed glossy banners. Someone else handed out relaunch kits with pens and water bottles. By noon, the whole thing came to a halt. A clinic 2 towns over had the same damn name, practically the same font. They filed a cease and desist by 3 o'clock. I might have known someone there. I might have sent over a preview slide last week. Hard to say. Then came Wednesday. ER hit peak volume at 5:42 p.m., 3 ambulances back-to-back, 1 chest pain, 1 trauma, 1 stroke. The fancy predictive load model? Completely missed it. Their algorithm still had the ER marked green, low risk. Meanwhile, triage was stacked. Staff tried using Brooke's lean routing tool. 2 patients sat for 40 minutes with no reassignment. One needed a CT. One needed oxygen. That was enough. Louis went straight to the whiteboard, wiped everything clean. Rewrote my old system by hand. Patient initials, symptoms, acuity, arrows. I heard the charge nurse say, "We're doing it Mia style. Move." Nobody argued. By 6 o'clock, they had things flowing again. I didn't lift a finger, just stood at the edge of the ER bay, watching staff click back into muscle memory. Brooke called an emergency meeting the next morning, tried to label it operational recalibration, but everyone knew it was damage control. She stood up front again, tired eyes and clipped tone. "Last night was an outlier," she said. "We're still adjusting to new systems, but the data shows we're on track overall." I raised my hand. She didn't want to call on me, but she did. I stood up, calm. "Disruption without a parachute," I said, "is just a fall." Nobody laughed, but a few people nodded. She blinked fast. "I appreciate your input." I sat back down, didn't say another word. For the rest of the day, people kept stopping by my office. Some just tapped the door frame, gave a nod. Others asked real questions, pulling old templates, double-checking workflows, asking what we used to do in this or that scenario. I didn't hand out answers, didn't bark orders, just gave them what they asked for and let them do what they already knew how to do. Brooke paced the halls like a substitute teacher whose class had stopped listening. I didn't chase her, didn't gloat, just kept my coffee hot and my calendar clear. She wanted the power, she had it now, and I was letting her choke on it. By Thursday morning, the emergency board meeting was on the calendar. Subject line: Governance Review, Urgent. Room, Executive Conference C. I showed up early, not because I needed time to prepare. I was already ready. I just wanted to watch Leonard squirm when he walked in and saw me sitting there. He entered second. Gray suit, no tie, eyes heavy. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Still didn't speak. Brooke walked in third, trying to look polished, but her nerves were crawling under her skin. I saw her grip the edge of her chair before she sat. Then came the real visitor, the CEO of Medspan Health Group. Clean cut, mid-40s, shiny watch, matte shoes, corporate as hell. He didn't shake hands, just nodded once and sat like this was already a done deal. The board chair opened things fast. She was a lawyer in her past life. Sharp eyes, no fluff. "Before we proceed, we need to address Mia Patterson's legal filings and equity status. Her shareholder rights are intact. Her intellectual property protections have been reviewed and validated by counsel." She paused. No one dared to speak over her. She turned to me. "Mia, you have the floor." I stood. No notes, no stammer, just clear voice and steady spine. "I'm not here for a title," I said. "I'm not here to fight for power, but I've protected this hospital when leadership wouldn't. I've put patients first when others put numbers first. And I've warned you, our systems are fragile. You all saw what happened this week. That's not a technology problem. That's a leadership problem." I looked directly at Leonard. "I don't want your chair." Then at Brooke. "I don't want your throne. Back to the board. I want recognition and protection." Silence. Then Medspan's CEO spoke up. "We've been monitoring the situation closely. Internal reports, external metrics, staff retention numbers, patient service logs. The inconsistency in leadership is a problem. We can't proceed with acquisition under current conditions." Brooke's face froze. She tried to recover. "We've had some growing pains. Every system update comes with a curve." The CEO cut her off, not interested in explanations. "We need stability. We need results." Leonard finally spoke. "We can course correct. Brooke just needs more time." The board chair looked at him flatly. "We don't have time." A board member to my left cleared his throat. "Let's recess." They filed out, every one of them, leaving the 4 of us in the room, not speaking. Brooke stared at the table like it might save her. Leonard rubbed his temples. I just sat, calm, waiting. 15 minutes later, they came back. The chair didn't sit before announcing it. Effective immediately, Brooke Leonard is relieved of all operational duties. Brooke's mouth dropped open. "You can't—" "Yes," the chair said. "We can?" She turned. "Doctor, Leonard will remain in an advisory role only, pending finalization of the Medspan deal. Leonard slumped in his chair. Then her eyes came to me. Mia, we'd like you to lead the transition. You'll serve as our consulting liaison to Medspan. You'll have authority over all systems evaluations and operational continuity until the acquisition closes. I didn't blink. I accept. Brooke pushed back from the table, shaking her head. This isn't how this was supposed to go. I stood. You wanted disruption. I turned for the door. Now you get to see what cleanup looks like. I didn't celebrate. Didn't smile in anyone's face or throw out a single told you so. I just got to work. Signed a consulting contract the next morning, 3 times my old salary. No fuss, no handshakes, just a clean agreement with my name at the top, and liaison to Medspan Health Group, right under it. Vanessa stepped into operations like she was born for it. Sharp, organized, steady hand. She didn't blink when we reviewed the backlog and slashed half the broken initiatives Brooke had rolled out. Luis took over systems. I handed him my archive notes, backup files, admin credentials. He stayed late that first week rebuilding the ER load predictor from scratch. My way, but better. I didn't hover, just checked in and moved out of his way. I didn't return to my corner office. Didn't want it. Started working from home. Sunroom desk, windows cracked, birds outside. I ran Team Syncs from my laptop, barefoot, coffee within reach. The new leadership ran the floor. I guided when needed, corrected when necessary, but mostly I let them move forward without a leash. Every 2 weeks I met with the board and Medspan brass. No posturing, just calm, direct updates. I knew every question before they asked it. Knew the systems, the staff, the cracks we still had to seal. Last Friday, after one of those calls, I shut my laptop and saw the email come through. Subject line, thank you. It was from the board chair. You didn't just save the hospital, it said. You reminded us who built it. I sat there for a second, not smiling, just breathing. Then I reached for my coffee, took a long sip, and leaned back in my chair. Outside, the morning had settled. Blue sky, no rush. The kind of peace you only get when you've already walked through the fire and come out clean on the other side. Still working, still standing. Because legacy isn't about staying forever. It's about leaving something no one else can erase.